Hey everybody, Argent here, and I'm outside Queen's Park on this beautiful night, and people like it for whatever reason when I do these videos of me doing a review while I'm walking around. I guess it gives you something nice to look at. So yeah, it's Queen's Park. That's Ontario's Parliament building, and if you're American, that's Ontario's State House, I guess you would say. Beautiful building, even if the things that go down in it aren't beautiful. So, just gonna film myself committing a crime. There we go. Now let's get into Cobra Kai Season 2. So as you guys know, I loved Cobra Kai Season 1. I was shocked that YouTube, of all things, would produce it. Like, Cobra Kai was legitimately based. Like, it was legitimately based. It had a lot of heart. It didn't really have anything, like, I'd say objectionable about it. They really did kind of capture that like 80s, 70s, like, wholesome that a lot of films I think have really been missing. So if you haven't watched it, definitely go watch Cobra Kai Season 1. It's included with YouTube Premium. I pay for YouTube Premium for a number of different reasons. I'd recommend getting it. Probably the nicest thing is you can download YouTube videos on your phone and you can like play them in the background, like while your phone's locked. So I download like podcasts or creepypastas or something. So it's kind of nice. You don't have to keep the app open and you don't have to be live streaming it, etc. So yeah, so if you do that, you get Cobra Kai is included in that. Maybe just get it for a month. Both seasons are out now. So Cobra Kai is the Karate Kid. I think it's like 25 to 30 years later. Now, full disclosure, I haven't actually seen any of the Karate Kid movies, so I'm kind of just going off of seeing this. So my impression of the characters isn't really colored by anything before. And I think there's probably two equally good ways to go about watching Cobra Kai. Is if you've seen the Karate Kid movies, it'll probably be interesting to come back to these characters and see where they are. But I also think it's interesting to just go into it without that background, and to try to kind of make just a fresh impression of them without any of the background stuff. Because something this series does really well, better than just about anything else I've watched, it does characters very, very well. Every character basically in this show gets their own arc, sometimes multiple arcs. They try to make everybody sympathetic, at least somewhat. The characters just really grow and change over the course of the seasons. Like, you'll see people who start off as being really, like, aloof and kind of standoffish become, like, more social and more accepting of others. You see a lot of kind of transition of Johnny from being just very bitter and kind of petulant and a bit of a man-child into kind of becoming a responsible adult and kind of, like, becoming mature. We see Daniel LaRusso go from being kind of, not really a cuck, but just being kind of someone who's completely lost touch and to kind of rediscovering some of his masculinity again and kind of discovering a purpose other than just making money. So everybody in this show pretty much, even if they're like an evil villain like Crease, like an evil character like Crease, gets a character arc. And we saw a lot of that stuff in Season 1, and all that gets continued in Season 2, which I like. Like, they don't drop. One of the complaints I had with a lot of things, and this is my complaint with the Marvel movies, is every movie they hit the reset button on character development. But we don't have that here. People's character arcs, like Johnny kind of trying to decide where he's going to take Cobra Kai, Miguel, Johnny's son, Robbie's kind of transition to becoming more like Daniel. All these things, all the progress saves from the previous season, and this season builds upon it. And almost immediately, you have people talking about and reacting to the consequences of the end of the last season, which I really like, because that's something I really hate, is a lack of continuity and a lack of people like referencing things that happened in the past. You don't have that here. It really does feel like it just picked off up where the previous season left off, And there's not any of this kind of like, oh, we're going to hit the reset button. We're going to like turn back everyone's development. Nothing like that. So I'm not going to go into like a description of what happened in the first season. I'm just going to talk about my thoughts on the second season so far. So I think one of the things that kind of polarized people a bit in this community about it was the show agreeing with Johnny? Were they saying that his like focus on trying to make his students like badasses, like to make them more, I guess, masculine or strong, like it used their creative and destructive energy, that kind of thing, to get them to stop being pussies or wimps? Was that being celebrated or was that being criticized? Because a lot of people said, oh, this show is a tribute to like real masculinity. A friend of mine called it based civic fascism, kind of a play off of based civic nationalism. So there's that aspect to it, and then there's other people who said it's mocking him, it's straw manning, I guess you could say, kind of right-wing thought. It's straw-manning masculinity. It's trying to make them look kind of like psychos. And this season immediately addresses this. And the first season had ended with Cobra Kai winning the karate tournament, but winning it largely because one of his students attacked another student while his back was turned, and they weren't in a match. And the other one deliberately attacked an injury, I think, or something to that effect. But basically they won by cheating. And Johnny like starts to have a bit of a crisis of conscience, because on one level he has helped these kids out. Miguel was kind of a wimp. That's his main student. They have a very, very touching father-son kind of dynamic going. But he was a wimp. He got bullied. He got beat up. And Johnny took him. He made him, like, obviously he got fit. He got a lot more confident. He got self-respect. And he took all these, like, kids in his school who were complete losers, and he made them into, like, much more functional, well, with the exception of Hawk, who just became a degenerate or whatever his name is. But a lot of them just became much more functional, happy, and productive people. So that's very clear. At the same time, though, he's starting to worry, maybe I'm going too far in some ways. Maybe, like, teaching these kids to just win at all costs, like no sense of balance, to teach them that there's not other things than winning, is kind of defeating the purpose. Maybe I'm going too far in some areas, as George Lucas would say. And he has this kind of crisis. And then kind of like in the early on, we have him pretty much in the first episode say, look guys, winning is good, but winning through cheating doesn't prove that you're strong. He's like, who's stronger? The Cobra who kills the lion, like the adult lion, or the Cobra who kills the baby lion, the sick baby lion? He's like, the adult lion, he's like that. And then he also like kind of revises it. He goes, no mercy doesn't mean no honor. So he's kind of like, he says, Cobra Kai is going to still kick ass. I still don't want you guys to be pussies. I still don't want you guys to be, like, rolled over. I'm not going all, like, Mr. Miyagi on you. But at the same time, there has to be balance. You have to balance it with a sense of, like, responsibility, of honor, of duty, of kind of these other traditional virtues need to be this counterbalance for just kind of raw aggression and raw just the need to assert your dominance. And I really like that, because I think that's how I feel. I mean, there's a big difference between not being a pussy and being willing to stand up for yourself, and being like a sociopath who just beats up people because for fun. I mean, those things aren't really similar at all. I mean, just because Johnny's telling the kids, like, don't let people screw with you or screw with your family, doesn't mean he has to tell them to just, like I said, be antisocial, like, gangbangers and go beat people up for no reason and solve all of their problems through violence, like fight me IRL Tonka type thing. So he kind of is like, okay, I'm going to have to take a step back. And you kind of see his character arc with him, that he's becoming more of an adult. He's starting to, he's looking at reevaluating his beliefs. He's like, look, a lot of this stuff is working, some of this stuff isn't working. I have to try to figure this out. And in the background of this, we have his rivalry with Daniel. And Daniel and him are kind of converging in some ways. Because Daniel at the beginning was... I mean, to be fair to him, he was very... he was a very successful guy. Like, he has a lovely wife. He has 2 kids. His son is a piece of crap who doesn't respect him. But his daughter's nice. She's kind of, she's fairly cute. She tends to respect him. He has a very successful business. He's well liked in the community. At the same time, though, like I said, some of that respect has kind of gone down a bit. Like, his wife kind of pushes him around and makes fun of him. He's not really taken seriously. His whole kind of like previous martial glory is now kind of like a joke. And he's like, I have to do something for me as a man. I have to try to become like who I used to be. Like, all this stuff about me now is good. I love having a family. I love being like a pillar of the community. But I also kind of have to get back to my man stuff. So he kind of takes Johnny's son under his wing, and we see this continue to the point where he basically adopts him and takes him in, and he lives in the guest house, which I think is really sweet. And he's taking Robbie under his wing because his own son is kind of a piece of shit, and Robbie is like soaks up everything. So like it makes him feel good as a man to have this boy who idolizes him, and that he can teach his stuff to, and that he can teach to fight, and like teach him how to be an adult and stuff. And then in season 2, his daughter also joins the dojo, so we get like this great family dynamic, and his daughter starts to fall in love with Robbie, the son of his arch nemesis. So we see a character arc going on with him too. And even though like some people will say like, oh, Johnny's the antagonist or Daniel's the antagonist, you don't really get that. You get it where both characters are very sympathetic. They're both very likable. In some ways they should like each other, but it's just kind of their pig-headedness and their inability to let go of the past that's kept them at odds. But I kind of feel over time a lot of it is becoming, it's weird because it's getting escalated, but at least from Johnny's side, he's becoming progressively, I think, less hateful towards Daniel, particularly after he kicked Crease out for the second time. And that's kind of an interesting aspect of this. So I haven't watched the original movies, like I said, but Crease was apparently Johnny's sensei at Cobra Kai, and he's the reason why like all the Cobra Kai guys turned out so bad. Actually, it's cool because they reunite all the guys from Cobra Kai from the first movie in an episode, and they go on like a road trip together and get into like a bar fight. And that was a lot of fun. And in that scene, Johnny rips out some degenerate's ear spacer and beats him up. And that was woke. But, yeah, so Crease comes back and he basically emotionally manipulates Johnny into giving him another chance. He's like, oh, I'm a changed man. You just got to give me another chance, Johnny. I'm better now. So he lets him become like the co-sensei. He starts like paying him, that kind of thing. And all that stuff happens, but Crease hasn't changed at all. And he starts going behind Johnny's back and trying to take it over. And he kind of really, you can see how far Johnny's come as a character. Because Crease kind of at this point is what he was like at the beginning of season 1. Or actually a lot worse than what he was like at the season 1. And we can see Johnny's like able to acknowledge this and to go, look, like I've been saying, a lot of what I did was good. And I'm not going to take that back, but maybe in some areas I went a little too far. Maybe in some areas I need to be a little bit more like Daniel and a little bit less like Crease. And I like that. Like I said, it's a good, solid character arc, and it's done in a very believable and organic way. And the characters in this show really they just feel very sincere, and there's just a general lack of things like nudity and There's not that much swearing, and like the violence is kind of more like, it feels very much like something from the 1980s with modern production values. It's just very wholesome, and I really like that. It's very wholesome. It has a lot of good, I think, messages that people in our political circles can agree with. The other thing is, it's just a really funny show. Like, there's a scene where Johnny's never had it. Well, part of his character is he's stuck in the 1980s, so he just thinks like a lot of new stuff is degenerate. Like, I forget, someone was like playing like some Lady Gaga or something. He's like, fuck that. That stuff sucks. Here, listen to some Metallica or something like that. Like, he's never had a computer before, so he gets one and he discovers the internet. Now, what I mean by this show kind of being wholesome is he doesn't immediately search for porn. He types in hot babes, and then he just like giggles like a schoolgirl. And then he starts like watching music videos and stuff like that. And then Daniel and him start to have like a YouTube off where they make like videos trashing each other. It's just a lot of fun. It's kind of hard to describe, but I find when you're watching a movie, you can often feel if the cast wants to be there or not. And if the cast feels like they're having a time of their lives, like that they legitimately like each other, that there's real chemistry there, it's hard to not smile when you're watching it. And that's one of the many reasons why I think the Lord of the Rings movies are so good. Because there's a natural chemistry there. Like, scenes like at Helm's Deep and whatever where they're fighting, you can tell that the people get along, that they're having the time of their lives, and that the camaraderie is real. And you can really feel that too in Cobra Kai. So definitely watch Cobra Kai season 2 and 1. You know what? Rewatch season 1. Hopefully we'll get a season 3. God willing. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys